The Valori Empire had ruled the stars for 300 years. Their ships moved through space like silver knives, fast and deadly. Their armies had crushed 100 worlds. Their emperor sat on a throne made from the bones of fallen enemies. They feared nothing because nothing had ever given them reason to fear. Admiral Kethvaran stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the stars through the wide viewing window. He was old for a Valori. His purple skin faded to a pale lavender. But his eyes were still sharp. He had spent 60 years in service to the Empire. He had seen rebellions start and end. He had watched entire species bow before Valori might. He knew how the universe worked. The universe belonged to the strong. The weak existed only to serve. His second officer approached with a data tablet. "Admiral." The weekly intelligence report from the frontier. Kethvaran took the tablet without much interest. The frontier was quiet. It had been quiet for years. The only species of any note in that region were the humans. And they were hardly worth thinking about. A single planet. Primitive technology. They had barely begun to explore their own solar system when Valori scouts first discovered them. The Empire had decided to leave them alone. They posed no threat. They had nothing worth taking. Let them play with their chemical rockets and their simple satellites. In another 1,000 years, perhaps they would be worth conquering. The report confirmed what Kethvaran already knew. Human activity was minimal. Their radio signals had decreased somewhat. But that meant nothing. Perhaps they were having another of their endless wars with each other. Humans seemed to enjoy fighting among themselves. He dismissed the report from his mind and returned to watching the stars. 10,000 light-years away, Fleet Admiral Daniel Cole stood in a room carved from solid rock deep beneath the surface of a frozen moon. The room was filled with holographic displays showing ship positions, supply lines, and tactical projections. Around him stood the commanders who would lead humanity's greatest gamble. Cole was 53 years old. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and deep lines marked his face. He had spent the last 20 years preparing for this moment. 20 years of secrets, 20 years of sacrifice, 20 years of watching the Valori Empire swallow world after world while humanity hid in the shadows and built. "Final status reports," he said. His voice was calm and steady. Captain Maria Santos stepped forward. She was small and dark-haired, with quick eyes that missed nothing. She commanded the technical division that had made everything possible. "All ships report ready, Admiral. The stealth drives are functioning within acceptable parameters. We can move through subspace without leaving a trace." This was humanity's secret weapon. The Valori used subspace travel like everyone else in the galaxy. But their drives created ripples that could be detected light-years away. Human scientists had spent 15 years solving that problem. They had found a way to slip through subspace like ghosts, invisible and silent. Rear Admiral Patricia Webb reported next. She was tall and broad-shouldered, with a face that rarely smiled. She had lost her husband to a Valori border patrol 12 years ago. A merchant ship in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Valori had destroyed it without warning and never even acknowledged the incident. Webb had been waiting for revenge ever since. "First strike group is ready," she said. 140 ships. All crews have completed final training. Morale is high. Commodore Anthony Russo followed. He was younger than the others, barely 40. But he had proven himself in a dozen covert operations against Valori outposts. His Marines were the best humanity had ever produced. "Assault teams are loaded and ready. We can take any ship in the Imperial fleet." Cole nodded slowly. He looked at the tactical display showing the positions of every known Valori vessel within 50 light-years. Red dots scattered across the darkness of space. Each dot represented death and oppression. Each dot represented an enemy that had no idea what was coming. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we have spent 20 years building this fleet in secret. We have trained our people. We have studied our enemy. We have prepared for every possibility we could imagine." He paused and looked at each of them in turn. "The Valori believe we are primitives. They believe we are no threat. They have never bothered to look closely at us because they cannot imagine that we could ever challenge them." He touched a control, and the display changed to show the first wave of targets. 27 star systems, military bases, communication hubs, supply depots, all of them would be hit at exactly the same moment. That arrogance is their weakness, Cole continued. They have grown comfortable. They have stopped watching for threats. They believe their empire will last forever. A cold smile crossed his face. We are going to teach them otherwise. Maria Santos spoke up. Admiral, once we begin, there is no going back. If we fail, the Vailori will find our hidden colonies. They will destroy everything we have built. They will hunt down every human in the galaxy. Cole met her eyes. I know. But if we do nothing, we remain slaves to their whims forever. They destroyed a merchant ship because it was convenient. They have enslaved entire species because they could. Sooner or later, they will decide that humanity is worth conquering after all. I would rather fight on our terms than wait for them to come for us. No one argued. They had all made peace with this decision long ago. Cole checked the time. 0358 hours. Terran Standard. 2 minutes until the fleet would move. All ships, he said into the fleet-wide communication channel. This is Fleet Admiral Cole. In 2 minutes, we will begin Operation Blackout. Many of you have family who do not know where you are or what you are doing. Many of you have left behind everything you knew to join this fight. I cannot promise that we will all survive. I cannot promise that we will win. He took a deep breath, but I can promise you this. Whatever happens today, the Vailori will learn that humanity is not weak. They will learn that we do not bow. They will learn that we fight, and they will never forget the lesson. The clock counted down. 0359. Then 0400. All ships, Cole said, execute. Across the hidden shipyards of New Portsmouth, 900 warships activated their stealth drives. One by one, they slipped into subspace, leaving no trace behind. The moon's surface showed no sign that anything had happened. The stars continued to shine in the cold darkness. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kethvoran finished his evening meal and retired to his quarters. He had no reason to worry. The frontier was quiet. The Empire was secure. He had no idea that death was already racing toward him through the silent void. Governor Mael Threes stood on the balcony of her palace and watched the sun rise over the capital city of Thessar Prime. It was a beautiful morning. The sky turned from deep purple to soft orange as the light spread across the towers and domes below. Ships moved through the air, carrying workers to their jobs, goods to their markets, soldiers to their posts. She had ruled this world for 30 years. Under her guidance, it had become one of the most important supply hubs in the Empire. 12 conquered systems sent their wealth here. Metals, crystals, rare elements, all flowed through Thessar Prime on their way to the Imperial core. The Emperor himself had praised her efficiency. Her assistant approached with a cup of heated nectar. Good morning, Governor. The garrison commander requests a meeting at your convenience. Routine matters. Mael Threes took the cup and sipped. Tell him I will see him after midday. I have reports to review first. She turned to go inside when something caught her eye. A flash of light in the sky, near the orbital defense ring. She frowned. The defense platforms did not fire without reason. Was it a drill? She had not been informed of any drill. Then another flash, and another, and another. Her communication device screamed with alarm signals. Commander Lucas Grant watched the last of the orbital communication arrays break apart under his ship's fire. The Relentless shook as enemy weapons found her hull, but her shields held. Around him, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, despite the chaos outside. Communication array destroyed, reported Lieutenant Karen Price from the weapons station. They cannot send a warning, Grant nodded. That was the most important part of the mission. The Vailori could not be allowed to alert other systems. Every target had to be isolated, blind and deaf. Before the killing began, all ships, engage defensive platforms, he ordered. Remember your targets. No friendly fire. The human fleet moved like a single organism. 120 vessels swept through the Valori defenses, each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. They had practiced this attack 1,000 times in simulation. Now they performed it for real, and the Valori could not believe what they were seeing. In the garrison command center, Admiral Vethran tried to understand what was happening. His screens showed human ships everywhere, but that was impossible. Humans did not have ships like these. Humans could barely reach their own outer planets. And even if they had somehow built a fleet, how had they arrived without warning? The subspace sensors should have detected them hours ago. "All ships, engage the enemy," he shouted. "Destroy them." His fleet obeyed. 40 warships turned toward the human vessels and opened fire. For a moment, Vethran felt hope. His ships were powerful. His crews were trained. Surely they could defeat these primitives. Then he watched the destroyer Eternal Purpose take 3 hits and explode. The humans fought differently than any enemy he had ever faced. They did not form neat lines of battle. They did not try to overwhelm with numbers. Instead, they moved in small groups, darting in to attack, and then retreating before his ships could respond. Their weapons struck with terrible precision, targeting engines, weapons, command centers. They did not waste a single shot. "Admiral, we have lost 12 ships," his tactical officer reported. His voice was shaking. "The humans are not taking damage. Our weapons cannot track them." Vethran stared at the screen. This was not possible. The Valori had conquered 100 species. They had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. They could not be losing to humans, but they were. On the surface, Governor Male 3's watched her world fall. The orbital platforms went silent, one by one. The garrison fleet, which had seemed so mighty that morning, was reduced to scattered debris and drifting wreckage. Above her city, human ships took position. Their weapons pointed at the ground. Her communication device crackled with a voice speaking perfect Valori. "This is Commander Lucas Grant of the Terran Unified Fleet. Governor Male Thris, your military forces have been defeated. Your communication with other systems has been cut. You are alone." She wanted to scream at him. She wanted to call him a liar, a savage, a primitive who had no right to challenge the Empire. But the evidence was burning in the sky above her. "What do you want?" she asked. "We want peace," Grant replied. "We have no quarrel with your civilian population. Surrender your remaining military personnel, and no harm will come to your people. Resist, and we will be forced to take measures neither of us wants." Male Thris looked at the ships overhead. She thought about the garrison troops still on the ground, the police forces, the administrative staff who had served her for decades. She could order them to fight. They would die, but they would take some humans with them. And then what? The humans would destroy her cities in response. Millions would die for nothing. "I surrender," she said. The words tasted like poison. "I surrender Thessar Prime to your forces. A wise decision, Governor. My Marines will arrive shortly to secure military installations. Cooperate fully, and this transition will be smooth." The channel closed. Male Thris sank into a chair and stared at nothing. 30 years of service. 30 years of loyalty. And it ended like this. With aliens she had never considered a threat taking everything she had built. She did not know that she was not alone in her defeat. Across the Empire, 27 systems fell that day. Some surrendered like Thessar Prime when they saw that resistance was hopeless. Others fought until the last ship was destroyed and the last soldier killed. It made no difference. The humans had planned too well. They struck too fast. By the time the sun set on Thessar Prime, the Valori Empire had lost more territory in a single day than it had gained in 50 years, and they still did not know who had attacked them or where the enemy had come from. Fleet Admiral Daniel Cole received the reports on the bridge of the carrier Indomitable. 27 targets hit. 27 targets secured. Human losses were light, far lighter than anyone had expected. The Valori had been caught completely by surprise. "Phase 1 is complete," Maria Santos reported. "All primary objectives achieved." Cole allowed himself a small smile. "Then we proceed to Phase 2. The Empire will send everything they have against us. Let them come. We will be ready. Patricia Webb's face appeared on the communication screen. She was smiling too. A rare sight. Admiral, my scouts report that the Imperial 1st and 2nd fleets are mobilizing. Over 800 capital ships. They are coming for us. Good, Cole said. That is exactly what we want. Prepare the Kessler Void ambush. Let us show the Valori what happens when they underestimate humanity. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the enemy to walk into it. Emperor Zeth Vanar, the 17th, had never known fear. He had been born to rule. His father had been emperor before him, and his grandfather before that, stretching back through generations without number. The Valori throne was his birthright, and the empire was his to command. When the first reports of the attack reached him, he did not believe them. Humans? Attacking the empire? The very idea was absurd. Humans were nothing. They were insects crawling on a single rock in a forgotten corner of space. They could no more threaten the empire than a child could threaten a warrior. But the reports kept coming. System after system gone silent. Garrison fleets destroyed. Governors surrendering. 27 worlds lost in a single day to an enemy that appeared from nowhere and struck without warning. The Emperor called his war council. They gathered in the Great Hall of the Imperial Palace, the most powerful military minds in the Empire. Grand Admiral Sorothos arrived first, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the lights. He was 300 years old, the most experienced commander in Valori history. He had crushed rebellions, conquered empires, and never lost a battle. Tell me everything, the Emperor commanded. Sorothos activated a holographic display showing the affected regions. Red markers indicated human presence. Blue markers showed Imperial forces. The red had spread like a disease across the frontier. The humans have achieved complete tactical surprise, Sorothos began. They possess some form of stealth technology that allows them to travel through subspace without detection. We do not know how this is possible. Our scientists believed it could not be done. Then our scientists were wrong, the Emperor said coldly. What else? Their weapons are more advanced than we anticipated. Their ships are faster and more maneuverable than ours. Their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered. They do not fight like the other species we have conquered. They fight like predators. Another admiral spoke up. Majesty, I recommend we consolidate our core fleets and establish a defensive perimeter. We need time to study this enemy before we commit to a major engagement. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You suggest that the Valori Empire retreat before humans? Before primitives who were building wooden boats while we conquered the stars? I suggest caution, Majesty. The enemy has shown capabilities we did not expect. Until we understand them better, we should not risk our main forces. The Emperor stood. He was tall for a Valori. His body still strong despite his age. His presence filling the room with cold authority. Caution is for the weak. The Empire did not become great through caution. We became great through strength, through decisive action, through the destruction of our enemies. He turned to Sorothos. Grand Admiral, you will take the 1st and 2nd fleets. 800 ships. You will find these humans, and you will destroy them. You will burn their colonies and scatter their fleet. You will make an example so terrible that no species will ever dare challenge us again. Sorothos hesitated. His tactical instincts screamed that something was wrong. The humans had shown too much planning, too much preparation. This did not feel like a desperate gamble by a primitive species. This felt like a trap. But he could not refuse a direct order from the Emperor. It will be done, Majesty. The fleet departed 3 days later with great ceremony. Imperial citizens gathered to watch the massive ships enter subspace, their silver hulls gleaming with power. Music played. Flags waved. Everyone knew that victory was certain. The Valori had never been defeated. They never would be. Fleet Admiral Daniel Cole watched the departure through captured sensor data. He knew exactly where the Imperial fleet was going. He knew their route, their speed, their formation. 20 years of intelligence gathering had given humanity a complete picture of Valori military doctrine. They are taking the bait, Patricia Webb reported. Right down the Kessler corridor. Just as we predicted. Cole nodded. The Kessler void was a region of empty space between star systems. A natural route for any fleet moving from the Imperial core to the frontier. It was also the perfect place for an ambush. Are the mines in position? He asked. 5,000 gravitational disruption devices spread across 3 light-years. When their fleet drops out of subspace, they will be scattered and disorganized. Our ships will be waiting. Good. Begin positioning our forces. We will only get one chance at this. Grand Admiral Sirathos rode at the head of his fleet aboard the dreadnought Eternal Dominion. It was the largest warship in the Empire. Bristling with weapons that could crack planets, he had commanded it for 50 years. It had never failed him, but as the fleet approached the Kessler void, his unease grew. Something was wrong. The subspace readings were unusual. Tiny fluctuations that his sensors could barely detect. He ordered increased alertness, but his officers found nothing definite. They dropped out of subspace at the calculated point and found chaos. The gravitational mines tore the fleet apart before they could fire a single shot. Ships were thrown light-years off course. Communication channels filled with static. Formations that had been perfect moments ago dissolved into scattered confusion, and then the humans attacked. They came from every direction at once, hundreds of ships appearing from subspace with no warning. They struck the confused Imperial vessels with terrible precision, targeting engines and weapons before the Valori could respond. Cerethos watched his fleet die around him. The righteous fury, destroyed. The Imperial will, destroyed. The unconquerable, destroyed. Ship after ship fell to the human weapons, and he could do nothing to stop it. He tried to rally his forces. He ordered counterattacks and defensive formations, but the humans were too fast, too coordinated. Every time he gathered a group of ships, they would scatter under a new assault. Every time he tried to retreat, he found humans blocking his path. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, Cerethos had lost over 600 ships. The greatest fleet in Valori history had been broken by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. Human marines boarded the Eternal Dominion on the 3rd day. Cerethos met them on the bridge, his weapon raised. He expected them to kill him. He hoped they would kill him. Death was better than the shame of defeat. Instead, their leader, a young officer named Benjamin Harper, simply pointed his weapon at him and said, "Put it down. You are coming with us." They brought him before Fleet Admiral Cole. The two admirals faced each other across a table, the victor and the vanquished. Cerethos studied his enemy with new eyes. This was not a primitive. This was a warrior. How? Cerethos asked. How did you do this? Cole leaned back in his chair. You looked at us and saw what you expected to see. We showed you exactly what you wanted to believe. While you were busy ignoring us, we were building, learning, preparing. And when we were ready, we struck. Cerethos nodded slowly. He understood now. The Valori had been fooled, not by human technology, but by their own arrogance. They had been so certain of their superiority that they never bothered to look closely at the threat growing in their shadow. What happens now? He asked. Now, Cole said. Your empire learns the price of underestimating humanity. The news of Grand Admiral Cerethos's defeat spread across the empire like wildfire. At first, no one believed it. The greatest military commander in Valori history, defeated by humans? Impossible. A lie. Enemy propaganda. But the truth could not be hidden. Survivors from the Battle of Kessler Void told their stories. Captured footage showed human ships tearing through Imperial formations. The Dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, the pride of the fleet, had been taken intact. Grand Admiral Cerethos himself was a prisoner. The Empire had never known such shame. On the industrial world of Marathos 7, factory workers who had spent their lives building ships for their Valori masters stopped working. They gathered in the streets and spoke in whispers about what the human victory might mean. For the first time in generations, they dared to hope. If the humans can beat them, one worker said, maybe the Empire is not as strong as we thought. Maybe, another replied, we do not have to serve forever. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Harper flew a small ship through uncharted space toward the mining world of Kethvos. Her mission was one of the most dangerous in the entire campaign. She was not going to fight. She was going to talk. The Vialori Empire ruled dozens of conquered species. For centuries, these species had lived under Vialori control. Their resources taken. Their people used as labor and soldiers. They had tried to rebel before. Every rebellion had been crushed with terrible violence. But now things were different. Now someone had proven that the Vialori could be beaten. Harper landed her ship in a hidden valley and waited. 3 hours later, a ground vehicle appeared carrying a single passenger. His name was Grelthan, and he was the leader of an underground resistance that had survived for 20 years through secrecy and patience. He was not Vialori. His species, the Kethvari, had been conquered over a century ago. They had been miners and traders before the Empire came. Now they were slaves, digging up valuable minerals that were shipped to Vialori worlds while their own people starved. "You are human," Grelthan said. It was not a question. "I am," Harper replied. "I am here to offer you an alliance." Grelthan laughed bitterly. "An alliance? Do you know how many times we have heard such promises? Other species have claimed they would help us. They always fail. The Vialori crush them, and then they punish us for daring to hope." "We are not going to fail," Harper said. "You are confident. But so were the others." Harper pulled out a datapad and showed him footage from the recent battles. The fall of Thessar Prime. The destruction of the garrison fleets. The Battle of Kessler Void. Grelthan watched in silence, his expression shifting from doubt to wonder to something that might have been hope. "This is real?" he asked. "It is real. We have broken the Imperial First and Second Fleets. Grand Admiral Sirthos is our prisoner. The Vialori are pulling back forces from across the frontier to protect their core worlds. They are afraid," Grelthan. For the first time in their history, they are afraid. Grelthan sat quietly for a long moment. "What do you want from us?" "Help. Information about Vialori positions and movements. Sabotage when the time is right. And when we strike the final blow, we need the subject species to rise up. One enemy, the Vialori can fight. 100 enemies at once? That they cannot survive. And what do we get in return?" Harper met his eyes. "Freedom. We are not here to build a new empire. When the Vialori fall, every world they conquered will be free to choose its own path. No new masters. No tribute. No slavery. Just freedom." Grelthan was silent again. He had spent his entire life under Vialori rule. His parents had been slaves. His grandparents had been slaves. He had never known anything else. The idea of freedom seemed almost impossible to imagine. But the footage on the datapad was real. The humans had done what no one else could do. Maybe they could be trusted. "I will help you," he said at last. "My people will help you. But if you betray us, if this is a trick, I will find you. And I will kill you myself." Harper smiled. "Fair enough." Similar meetings happened on dozens of worlds across the Empire. Human agents made contact with resistance groups that had been waiting for this moment. Promises were made. Alliances were formed. A network of rebellion began to spread through Vialori space, like cracks in ice. Emperor Zethvanar responded with increasing cruelty. He ordered the execution of suspected rebels without trial. He destroyed civilian infrastructure on worlds that showed signs of unrest. He deployed weapons banned by ancient treaty, burning cities and poisoning water supplies. Each atrocity made things worse. Every execution created 10 new rebels. Every destroyed city turned loyal subjects into enemies. The emperor was trying to hold his empire together through fear. But fear was no longer enough. Fleet Admiral Cole watched the reports from his command ship. The situation was developing exactly as he had hoped. The Vialori were tearing themselves apart. Human forces only needed to keep pushing, keep winning, keep showing the galaxy that the Empire could be beaten. But the final victory would require something more. As long as the Emperor remained on his throne, the Empire would continue to fight. The war could drag on for years. costing millions of lives. There was only one way to end it quickly. Rear Admiral Patricia Webb stood before him with a proposal that was either brilliant or suicidal. "A direct strike on Valor Prime," she said. "Hit the throne world. Take out the Emperor. End this war in one blow." "The throne world is the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy," Cole replied. 12 battle stations, 300 warships, planetary shields rated to withstand months of bombardment. "All true," Webb agreed. "But none of that matters if we appear inside their defenses. Our stealth drives give us that ability. We can bypass everything they have and strike before they can respond." Cole considered the plan. The risks were enormous. If they failed, they would lose a significant portion of their remaining fleet. The war would be set back years, but if they succeeded, the war would be over. The Empire would collapse. Freedom would come to hundreds of worlds. He thought about the lives that would be lost if the war continued. He thought about the atrocities the Emperor was committing in his desperation. He thought about what it would mean to end this, once and for all. "Begin planning the operation," he said. "We strike in 3 weeks." Webb saluted and left to prepare. Cole remained alone on the bridge, looking at the stars through the viewing window. Somewhere out there, the Emperor was waiting. He did not know that death was coming for him. The final battle was about to begin. The Imperial throne world of Valor Prime orbited a golden sun at the heart of the Empire. It was the most beautiful world in known space, with cities of crystal towers and gardens that stretched for thousands of miles. For 3,000 years, it had been the center of Valori power, the seat of emperors, the heart of an empire that had conquered half the galaxy. Emperor Zethvanar stood in his throne room and watched the defensive fleet patrol the skies above his world. 300 warships, 12 orbital battle stations, planetary shields powerful enough to withstand any attack. He had gathered every resource the Empire had left to protect this place. The humans would come. He knew that now. They were not content with capturing the frontier. They wanted to end his empire entirely. And the only way to do that was to take the throne world. Let them try. Let them throw themselves against his defenses. They had won battles through trickery and surprise. Now they would face the full might of the Valori, and they would learn that some walls could not be broken. 600 light-years away, Fleet Admiral Daniel Cole addressed his fleet for the final time. "Today, we end this war," he said. His voice carried through the communication network to every ship, every crew, every soldier. "Today we bring freedom to 100 worlds. Today we show the galaxy that tyranny cannot last forever. Under 7. All we're A7 people. Today we show the galaxy that tyranny cannot last forever." He paused and looked at the tactical display. 600 ships. Everything humanity had. It was not enough for a conventional attack on the throne world. But they were not going to fight conventionally. The Valori believe their defenses are unbreakable. They believe we cannot reach them. They are wrong. We will appear inside their perimeter. We will strike before they can respond, and we will not stop until the Emperor himself is in our hands. He took a deep breath. "Many of us will not survive this day. I will not pretend otherwise. But those who fall will not die in vain. They will die for something greater than themselves. They will die for the future of our species and for the freedom of every being in this galaxy who has suffered under Valori rule." He raised his hand in salute. "It has been my honor to serve with you. Now let us finish what we started. All ships, execute. Jump." The fleet vanished into subspace. On Valor Prime, the first warning came when a sensor operator noticed something strange, a flicker of energy inside the defensive perimeter. Probably a malfunction. He ran a diagnostic. Before the diagnostic completed, 600 human warships materialized between the battle stations and the planet. Chaos erupted across the Imperial command network. Officers screamed orders that no one could follow. Ships turned to engage the enemy and found themselves firing toward their own homeworld. The battle stations tried to target the human fleet but could not get clear shots without risking the planet they were supposed to protect. Captain Nathan Cole, son of the fleet admiral, commanded the destroyer Dauntless at the front of the assault. He was 28 years old, and he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. His father had wanted to keep him safe, to assign him to a support role far from danger. Nathan had refused. If humanity was going to risk everything, he would risk everything too. Weapons free, he ordered. Target the nearest battle station. The Dauntless plunged toward its target, weaving through defensive fire that filled space with deadly light. Lieutenant Amanda Cross, his weapons officer, tracked the station's shield generators and prepared a coordinated strike. The ship shook as enemy weapons found their mark. Alarms screamed. Hull breaches opened on 3 decks. Damage reports flooded in. Nathan ignored them all. Nothing mattered, except the target. Fire, he said. Every missile in the Dauntless's arsenal streaked toward the battle station. The shields held for 11 seconds. Then they collapsed, and the station tore itself apart under the barrage. 1 down, 11 to go. The battle raged for hours. Human ships fell, their crews dying in fire and vacuum. But for every human ship that fell, 5 Valori vessels were destroyed. The defenders could not coordinate. They could not maneuver. They were trapped between the enemy fleet and the planet they were sworn to protect. Emperor Zeth Vonar watched from his palace as his empire crumbled. The orbital stations fell one by one. The defensive fleet was reduced to scattered survivors running for escape. The planetary shields flickered and died under sustained bombardment. His advisors begged him to flee. There were still ships that could escape. He could regroup, rebuild, continue the fight from exile. He refused. The Valori Empire would not end with its emperor running like a coward. If the empire fell today, it would fall with him standing where he belonged. On the throne, the first human shuttles landed in the palace gardens. Marines poured out, their weapons ready. They moved through the crystal corridors with practiced efficiency, securing each room, taking prisoners, pushing ever closer to the throne room. Sergeant Benjamin Harper led the team that breached the final doors. He had been a factory worker before the war, a man who had never expected to hold a weapon, let alone storm an imperial palace. Now he stood at the threshold of history. The throne room was vast and beautiful, filled with golden light from windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. At the far end, Emperor Zeth Vonar sat on his throne, a ceremonial blade across his knees. "Come then, humans," the Emperor said. "Finish what you started." Harper approached slowly, his weapon raised but not firing. Behind him, his team spread out to cover the room. They had trained for this moment 100 times. They knew what to do. "Put down the blade," Harper said. "It is over." The Emperor laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. "Over? This is not over. You have won a battle. You have not won the war. Another will take my place. The Empire will rise again." Harper shook his head. "No, it will not. The subject species are already rising. Your admirals are surrendering. Your governors are fleeing. The Empire is not going to rise again because there is no one left who wants it to." Zeth Vonar stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Pain, perhaps, or regret. He had spent his entire life believing that the Valori were destined to rule. Now a human soldier was telling him that destiny was a lie. The blade clattered to the floor. The Emperor stood and stepped away from the throne. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Harper said, "you come with us. And tomorrow, this galaxy starts over." The surrender was signed 6 days later in the same throne room where Zeth Vonar had been captured. Fleet Admiral Daniel Cole accepted the document from the Provisional Council that had formed to oversee the end of Imperial authority. Representatives from 100 species watched as Cole addressed them. Humans, Kethvari, Marathans, dozens of others. All of them free for the first time in centuries. "We did not come here to conquer," Cole said. "We came here to liberate. The age of empire is over. What comes next is up to all of us. Together, we can build something better, something based on cooperation instead of conquest, freedom instead of fear. He looked at the gathered delegates, alien faces that had once been enemies and were now partners in a new future. It will not be easy, it will take time. But if humanity has learned anything, it is that the impossible becomes possible when people work together. Today, we take the first step. Across 100 worlds, beings who had never known freedom watched the broadcast. They saw the Emperor's throne empty. They saw human and alien standing side by side. They saw the beginning of something new, and for the first time in 3,000 years, they believed that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. The Empire had fallen. The future had begun.